The 58-year-old after-school program owner wins a seat on a city council in a quiet suburb of LA. A few years later, she's the mayor. Then last week, she resigns and agrees to plead guilty to acting as an agent of the Chinese government. This woman was running pro-Beijing articles on a website she co-ran with her then fiancé, taking direction over WeChat from a Chinese official, and her fiancé, who was also her campaign advisor, is now serving 4 years in a federal prison for doing the same thing for the same government. That's the Eileen Wang case in Arcadia, California, and the part that should actually bother you is that it's not actually unusual, it's actually pretty normal. If you look across the Five Eyes, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, you'll find the same pattern in sort of different shapes. A community group here, a parliamentary staffer there, a senator with a Chinese donor there, an MP who used to teach linguists at a PLA spy school. So in this video, I want to talk you through how this actually works, not the movie version, but actually the real one in real life. I'm Cole, Director of All Intelligence. We train current and aspiring analysts in real-world intelligence tradecraft, how to evaluate sources, structure messy information, assess threats, and produce intelligence that supports decisions. So this video is not going to be a spy thriller version of that story. It's just taking a look at the machinery underneath it, how foreign states identify useful people, how they influence relationships, why Western governments are exposed, and what the actual risk is when those relationships are hidden. One quick caveat before we get into it, the video is educational, okay? So the point of this is to help you understand how foreign influence operations actually work, so that when you see these stories in the news, you have a framework to make sense of them. It's not an attack on any country, any community, or any individual beyond what has already been established in open source reporting. And most of the people in any diaspora community are not foreign agents. The vast majority are simply not. They are also, as you'll see later, often the victims of these operations. So the main thing is treat what follows as a lesson in tradecraft, not witch hunt. So first thing to get straight, when people hear the words spy or Chinese spy, they picture a guy in a trench coat stealing nuclear secrets, but that exists and it matters, but it's not what most of these cases are. The cases I'm going to walk you through fall into a different kind of bucket. Intelligence professionals call it foreign interference or political influence operations. The people involved are usually what we call agents of influence, and that difference is really important. So a traditional spy steals secrets, okay? An agent of influence shapes decisions. They do not need access to classified information, they need access to the people who shape policy, and they need to be trusted by those people. And that's a much lower bar to clear, and it's also much harder to detect. So a question I usually get asked in our courses and our training is, how does someone actually end up doing this? Did they wake up one morning and decide to betray their country? And in most cases, no. So the pattern that you typically see is the same one that's been observed over 100 years. Identification, cultivation, recruitment, and handling. The KGB used it, CIA used it, Chinese intelligence services use it now. The labels change and the human psychology doesn't. So the intelligence service looks for people who have access or who are likely to have access in the future. So local councillors, community organisers, business owners, political connections. They're not looking for senators on day one. They're looking for people who might be senators in 15 years, so it's that long game. Then we look at cultivation, and this is the long, slow part. It looks like a friendship. It looks like business opportunities. It looks like flattery and access to networks back home. A free trip to Beijing, a donation to your local community group, an introduction to a wealthy investor, a relationship that grows over years. Now this is where it gets interesting, and that's recruitment. So in a lot of these cases, there is no signed agreement. The person is doing favors, it's taking calls, repeating talking points, and somewhere along the lines, they've crossed the line they cannot easily walk back from. And then we look at the operational part. So with this, WeChat messages with pre-written articles, phone calls about what to say at a press conference, invitations to the consulate, help with a business venture in China, the person becomes useful. And the longer it goes on, the more useful they become. And that is the model. Now let us look at how it actually played out on the ground. So I'm going to take you through one case per country. They are not the only cases. They are not even the most interesting cases. They are the ones that tell you the most about how this works. So let's look at the US with the Eileen Wang case. So Wang was the mayor of Arcadia, a wealthy suburb in LA County with a large Chinese population. The Department of Justice says that from late 2020 to 2022, she was acting as an illegal agent of the PRC. The mechanics are worth slowing down on though. So Wang and her fiance, Yao Ning Mike, son, ran a website called the US News Center. It looked like a local Chinese language news site. According to some court documents, a Chinese official would contact Wang on WeChat and send her pre-written articles, including one denying the Uyghur genocide. And that same essay has already been placed in the LA Times under a Chinese government byline. Now, Wang would post the article on US News Center within minutes, then send the official a link to prove she had done it. The official would reply with a simple thank you. Okay, so that is not a complicated operation. That's a relationship. So Mike pleaded guilty in October 2025, is now serving 4 years in a federal prison for the same conduct. Wang was also in communication with John Chen, another Chinese agent who pleaded guilty in 2024 and is now sentenced to 20 months. The point here is that this is a network, not a lone operator. And for context, this is not the only US case. So Linda Sun, a former deputy chief of staff to two New York governors, was charged in September 2024 for acting as a Chinese agent. Her trial ended in a hung jury in 2025 and prosecutors are seeking a retrial. Christine Fang, who between 2011 and 2025 built relationships with multiple Bay Area politicians, including a young Eric Swalwell, before leaving the country once she came under FBI investigation. And so the pattern repeats. Then we look over to the UK. So Christine Lee is a solicitor. She ran a law firm. She set up community organisations, including the All-Party Parliamentary Chinese in Britain Group. She donated to a sitting Labour MP called Barry Gardner, and her son worked in the parliamentary office for 5 years. In 2022, MI5 took the very unusual step of issuing an interference alert to Parliament. It named her, it included her photo, it said she had been working in covert coordination with the United Front Work Department of the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP. So she was not arrested, she was not charged. The UK at the time did not have a foreign agent registration law that covered what she was alleged to be doing. So MI5 did the only thing they could do, which was to publicly burn her so that MPs would stop taking her calls. Lee took MI5 to court, she lost. The tribunal found that MI5 had acted lawfully and proportionately. So this next example is a bit more close to home. So in New Zealand, we have Zhang Yang. So Yang was a National Party MP from 2011 to 2020. Before he moved to New Zealand, he spent more than a decade at two PLA-run institutions, the Air Force Engineering College and then a Foreign Languages Institute, which was run by the 3rd Department of the PLA Joint Staff. That is China's Signals Intelligence Agency. His job there was to teach English to Chinese military intelligence cadets, not generic English, the English needed to intercept foreign communications. When Yang applied for New Zealand residency and citizenship, he did not disclose those institutions. He used the names of civilian partner universities. He has since said that this was what the system required of him when he left China. Now, he went on to sit on Parliament's Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committees. He organised meetings with the leader of his party and senior CCP officials. He retired from Parliament in 2020 under quiet pressure after intelligence agencies raised some concerns. He has never been charged with anything. Okay, so that's only a few cases, but they're broadly the same playbook. So why does it keep happening? Now, there's 3 structural reasons really. So 1, open political systems are exposed by design. We let anyone really donate to political parties, run for local office, set up community groups, fund parliamentary research, and that openness is a feature, not a bug, but it's also a really soft target. The second one is the cost-benefit equation for the adversary is excellent. The Chinese state spends comparatively small amounts of money on these operations, and the potential return is access to a parliament, a state government, a major city. Even if most operations fail or get burned, the ones that succeed pay off enormously. Low risk, high reward. 3, these operations are patient. The Yang case takes 30 years from PLA classroom to retired New Zealand MP. The Christine Lee case is 15 years of community work in the UK before MI5 burns her. So Western intelligence services run on 3 to 5 year political cycles, right? And the adversary runs on generational cycles. It's that long game. But what is the actual risk? And that's the question that matters most. It is not, in most cases, theft of classified information. None of the politicians I just described had access to the really top secret material. That is not what these operations are for. The actual risk has 4 parts. First is policy. First is policy influence, quiet shaping of decisions on trade, foreign policy, defense, immigration, technology, and what your government is willing to say in public without the adversary. Second, we look at narrative control. So the Wang case is a clean example. A foreign government places opinion pieces in your local press. and your own elected officials amplify them on their own platforms. Your everyday voter likely can't tell the difference between domestic political opinion and a foreign state operation. Third, we look at suppression of the diaspora. So this is the part that a lot of people miss. So the Chinese state is not only trying to influence the host country, it is using these networks to monitor and intimidate its own people. So critics of the CCP living in Auckland or Vancouver or London find that their families back home start getting visits from the security services, and that is a direct attack on the freedoms a Western country is supposed to guarantee these people. Fourth, we look at the opportunity cost. So every hour of intelligence resource spent investigating an MP from your own parliament is an hour not spent on other priorities. These operations are attacks on Western counterintelligence, and they're meant to be. So what do you take away from all this? These cases aren't random. They are the predictable result of an open political system running up against a patient, well-resourced, generationally focused state intelligence service. The fact that we keep seeing them is not a sign that our agencies are failing. It is, ironically, a sign that they're working. We are catching cases now that 30 years ago we would not have caught at all. What I would ask you to do is stop reading these stories as scandals and start reading them as a pattern. The pattern is the thing. The individual cases are just really the data points. And if you want to learn how analysts actually pull patterns like this apart in proper intelligent tradecraft rather than headlines, that is what we do at Orcon. You can follow the links in the description to find out more. So thanks for watching. I'm Cole. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.